I'm George. I'm 87 years old. And I'm going to tell you the truth. There are mornings now when I wake up and I can't remember what I'm waking up for, and that scares me more than the aches or the pills or the quiet. I don't say that for sympathy. I'm past wanting that. I'm saying it because time makes a different kind of sound when you're this old. It isn't loud. It's just always there, like a clock you can't find, ticking inside the walls. Last Tuesday I picked up my granddaughter from school. Same parking lot I've sat in 100 times, engine running, heater on low, watching kids spill out like marbles. I know the routine. I bring peppermints. I keep a blanket in the back seat because her mother says she runs cold. She climbed into the car and didn't even look at me. Not rude. Just far away. She buckled her seatbelt with that automatic motion teenagers have, like they're already somewhere else. Her backpack slid to the floor. She stared at her shoes. And I saw it right away. Not sad. Not angry. Flat. Like someone had turned off a light inside her. She's 15. I asked, "How was your day?" She shrugged. One shoulder. No words. I asked, "Anything happen?" She said, "No." We pulled out of the lot. I waited. I've learned not to fill every silence. Silence is a kind of information, if you let it sit long enough. We were 2 streets away when she spoke again, still looking out the window. "Grandpa," she said, "does it ever feel like nothing you do actually matters?" That question hit me so hard I had to tighten my grip on the steering wheel. Not because it was dramatic. Because it was familiar. Because it wasn't coming from an old man sitting alone in a kitchen. It was coming from a girl who still had all her first times ahead of her. I told her, sometimes, and that was all I could get out. My throat did that thing it does now, where it feels like it's closing for no good reason. She nodded once, like she'd expected that answer, and went quiet again. When I dropped her off, she gave me a quick hug, polite and quick, and went inside. The door closed. The house swallowed her up. And I sat in the driveway with the car still running, staring at my own hands on the wheel like they belonged to somebody else. I've lived through a war. I've watched men my age die too early and men younger than me die in a hurry. I've buried friends, and I've stood in hospital rooms with fluorescent lights that made everybody look already gone. I've made money, lost money, started over. I've been proud of myself and ashamed of myself, sometimes in the same week. And still, that question from a 15-year-old girl shook me. Because I've asked it too. More times than I can count. Mostly at night, when the house is quiet and there's nothing to distract me from my own thoughts. Mostly when I was certain I was doing what I was supposed to be doing. I used to think matching was something you could measure. A bigger paycheck. A nicer house. People saying your name with respect. Being needed. Being important. It's what we were trained to chase, whether anyone admitted it or not. I grew up in a home where a man was only as good as what he provided. My father didn't say "I love you." He said, "Did you pay the bill?" He'd come home tired, sit down, take off his boots, and the whole house would go quiet around him. We didn't want to be the problem he had to deal with after the world had already gotten to him. So I learned early that love was something you earned by being useful. When I got married to Eleanor, I promised myself she'd never worry about money. I meant it. I loved her. I still do, in the way you love somebody who isn't here anymore and you don't know where to put it. I started a small business. Nothing glamorous. Supplies, contracts, invoices, driving all over town. I worked with my hands and my head, and I was proud of it. I thought I was building something solid. And for a while, it felt like I was. I'd leave before the kids woke up. I'd come home after dinner, sometimes after they'd already gone to bed. I'd stand in the hallway and listen to their breathing, like that was enough to count as being there. Eleanor would keep the house running. She'd make lunches. She'd wash uniforms. She'd sit at the kitchen table with homework spread out like a map. And when I walked in, she'd ask, "How was your day?" the way a person asks when they already know the answer is going to be heavy. I'd say, "Busy," and think that explained everything. There's a certain kind of praise you get when you're the working man. People say, "He works hard." They say it like it's the same thing as "he's good." You start to depend on that. I missed my son's school play once because a client needed something right away. I told myself there would be another play. I missed my daughter's dentist appointment because an employee called in sick. I told myself Eleanor could handle it. I didn't go to my mother's birthday dinner because I was tired and had a headache and I'd make it up later. All of it sounded reasonable in my own head. The damage doesn't announce itself when you're making it. It comes like dust. Little by little. You don't notice until you look around one day and realize everything you loved has a thin gray layer over it. I remember one Sunday afternoon, my kids were in the living room building a fort out of couch cushions. They were laughing, arguing, making those happy little noises kids make when they feel safe. Eleanor called me in to see it. I stood in the doorway with my tie loosened, holding my briefcase, and I said, "That's nice," and went to the bedroom to lie down because I had a lot on my mind. If I could go back, I'd sit on the floor with them. I'd let them climb on me. I'd be part of it. I didn't know that was the moment. I thought the moments were supposed to be bigger. Years passed like that. Work, sleep, work again. The kids grew taller. Eleanor's hair got a few strands of gray. My business improved, then struggled, then improved again. I drank more than I should have. Not falling down drunk. Just enough to take the edge off. Enough to blur the feeling that something was missing. When I was 39, I was sitting in my car outside a bar, hands on the wheel just like last Tuesday, trying to decide whether to go in. I wasn't thinking of doing anything terrible. I was thinking of disappearing for an hour. Just not being myself for a little while. A man named Tom knocked on my window. I barely knew him. We'd met through work. He wasn't a close friend. That's what makes this part strange. He said, "I'm getting coffee. You want to come?" No lecture. No concern in his voice. Just an invitation. We sat in a diner for 2 hours. He talked about his kids, a book he was reading, a trip he'd taken years ago. Normal things. And in the middle of all that, something in me loosened. I felt less cornered. I didn't go into that bar. I went home. I don't remember what we ate. I don't remember if it was raining. But I remember that he didn't ask me to perform my pain. He just kept me company. Tom probably forgot that night by morning. But I didn't. That's what I didn't understand when I was younger. The things that matter don't feel like they matter at the time. They feel ordinary. They feel like nothing. My neighbor Margaret taught 3rd grade for her whole life. Same school, same hallway smell of floor wax and old books. She never married. No kids of her own. Quiet woman. Wore cardigans even in warm weather. Kept her yard neat. When she retired, the school gave her a small gathering. Maybe 30 people. A plaque, some flowers. Polite applause. No big speeches. 2 years later she died in her sleep. At her funeral, the church was packed. People standing in the back, leaning against the walls. I saw faces I didn't recognize, all ages. One by one, they stood up and talked about her like she'd saved them. A doctor said she was the first person who made him feel smart. A woman said Margaret taught her to read when everyone else had given up on her. A man brought his daughter and said he became a teacher because of Margaret. Margaret never chased significance. She just paid attention to the children in front of her. She learned their names. She noticed when they were struggling. She stayed late and explained fractions again and again until the kids stopped feeling stupid. And it changed lives. I thought about Eleanor's letters then. She used to write real letters, with stamps. She'd write to our kids at college, to cousins, to old friends. I teased her. I said, just call. Everyone has phones. She'd smile and keep writing, like she knew something I didn't. After she died, I found boxes of replies. People telling her they read her letters during hard times. People saying her words made them feel less alone. Some had saved the envelopes for decades. Eleanor wasn't trying to matter. She was just reaching out. My turning point came the year Eleanor got sick. It wasn't a sudden collapse. It was a slow thinning. A cough that didn't go away. A tiredness that didn't match the day. She'd sit down to tie her shoes and have to rest afterward. I kept saying, after this job, after this month, after things settle. As if life ever settles. When the doctor said the word cancer, the room didn't spin. It didn't go cinematic. It got small. I could hear the air conditioner. I could hear Eleanor's breath. I looked at her hands in her lap and thought, unbelievably, about all the times I wasn't in the room with her when I could have been. We had months. Not years. Months. I sat with her in the evenings then, watching her drink soup like it took effort. I held her hand in bed when she couldn't sleep. I washed dishes without being asked. I learned how to fold her sweaters the way she liked. And I realized something ugly, I had always been capable of this. I just didn't choose it when there wasn't a crisis forcing me. When she died, the house got louder in its quiet. The refrigerator hum. The pipes. The little clicks and creaks at night. The silence wasn't empty. It was full of everything I didn't say while she was alive. What can't be fixed is simple. I can't go back and sit on the floor with my kids in that cushion fort. I can't go back and watch the school play. I can't give Eleanor a younger version of me, the one who had energy and time and still thought tomorrow was guaranteed. I can't hand my granddaughter a world where she never has to ask if she matters. All I can do now is answer her honestly. Because yes, sometimes it feels like nothing you do matters. Especially when you're looking for proof. Especially when you're measuring it in applause or money or being remembered. Most of us won't be remembered the way we imagine. Our names won't be carved into anything that lasts. People will pack up our clothes, sell our furniture, donate our books. Life will keep moving. It always does. But I've noticed this, living as long as I have, people remember how you were with them. They remember if you showed up. They remember if you looked them in the eye. They remember if you made room for them when you didn't have to. If you're listening to me and you're younger than I am, and you are, unless you're one of the few, here's what I wish somebody had told me without dressing it up. Mattering doesn't feel like fireworks. It feels like 15 minutes at the edge of a pool with a scared child. It feels like coffee with a man who doesn't know how close he is to making a bad decision. It feels like a letter arriving on an ordinary Tuesday. It feels like asking the tired cashier, "How are you really doing?" and meaning it. You won't get a notice telling you that you changed something. You'll usually never know. If this story meant something to you, you can tell me in the comments what question has been rattling around in your own head. I read more of them than people think. I'm 87, and I don't have the luxury of assuming there will be more time, so when my granddaughter asks me if anything matters, I tell her the truth. It matters where your attention goes, and it matters who you're gentle with, and it matters that you're here at all.